One of the things I love about Dreamwork is the number of worlds it can open up to anyone willing to take the dive into understanding their dreams. But unfortunately, a lot of people just aren't willing to do this because, well, let's face it, dreams are often just plain weird and hard to figure out. And they don't want to put in the effort to make sense of them. Well, my goal is to convince you to make that effort because it's worth it. And to help me in this quest is my guest today, Linda Schiller. Linda is a psychotherapist, author, and dream consultant who teaches on a wide range of dream work practices. She's written numerous articles on dream work and has a new book coming out called Modern Dream Work: New Tools for Decoding Your Soul's Wisdom. Welcome to the Dream Power Show, Linda.
Thank you, Debbie. Nice to be here.
Linda, why is it so hard for people to make sense of their dreams?
Dreams don't follow the same rules, so to speak, as our waking thoughts. When we're awake, we tend to have a more sort of linear kind of thinking, and A follows B, and A plus B equals C. Where in dream work, it's more like loops and spirals and kind of like a Mobius strip where things twist and turn. So you need a special way of attending to your dreams that is a little bit different than your regular waking life to kind of unpack the mysteries that they have.
And how is one way of doing that?
A lot of different things to think about in terms of understanding a dream, and there are a couple of points that I can make. One is that dreams often, if not usually, come coded in some kind of metaphor or symbolism. So we certainly can have dreams that are pretty much like instant replay of what we did the day before or the week before. And in the case of post-trauma dreams, sometimes those dreams come and are just sort of like a replay of the traumatic event that happened. But often dreams come with a metaphor or symbolism that we don't understand. So the first thing we have to do is appreciate, oh, this means something, even if I don't yet get what it is. And then the next step is to start looking for associations. And part of doing good dream work is the ability to make associations between what you dreamt about at night and what's going on in your life today, or in the past week, or in the past larger chunk of time, as in the case particularly of repetitive dreams. And the other thing, two other things to remember. One is that when we have dreams, we need to contextualize them within our life. So you and I might have a similar dream, but it will mean something different to me and to you because your life is different than my life. So we have to contextualize it in the life of the person having the dream. And the dreamer is always the ultimate authority for his or her own dream. It doesn't matter if I'm working with someone and I think, oh, I know what your dream means. If it doesn't resonate as true with the dreamer, him or herself, then it's not true for them. And the final way I'll answer this question is that dreams also have many layers. So there could be many layers of simultaneously true meaning to any dream that we have.
You say it has different kind of layers. Can you elaborate a bit on what you mean by different kind of layers within a dream?
There's sort of two things I'm thinking about with layers of a dream. There's the layers within the dream itself, and there are also layers of what sort of constitutes a dream. We operate on a continuum between wide awake and sound asleep. And in that continuum are a variety of states of consciousness. So after wide awake, the next one might be like daydreaming, which isn't technically dreaming at all, but it's the vernacular when we're kind of spacing out and thinking about something else. The layer after that would be paying attention to what is called in shamanic and energy circles, the waking dream, where you're paying attention to things happening in your daily life that are synchronistic, that have meaning above and beyond coincidentally appearing there. And if you're paying attention, that can be a form of a waking dream. The next layer is that state of consciousness just before we fall asleep at night and we're not quite asleep yet, and just as we're waking up in the morning and we're not quite either awake or asleep, that in Jungian terms is called the hypnopompic or the hypnagogic zone. Those states of consciousness are actually very, very similar to our REM, our REM dreaming state. REM is rapid eye movement, which is what happens when we dream. So the material from that state of consciousness is pretty much from the same part of our brain and the same part of our being as our actual nighttime dreams. And the other way, that's sort of maybe the horizontal looking at layers. And then sort of the vertical looking at layers is layers of meaning within the dream itself. So the top layer of meaning might be just the storyline of the dream itself. I dreamt that I was on a beach and a tsunami was approaching. Boom, that's my dream. So the first layer of meaning is just the storyline. The next layer is that our first associations, when I'm thinking about being on a beach and thinking about a tsunami, what comes to mind right away? Is there anything in my life that this reminds me of? Have I ever been on a beach like that before, or that particular beach? Have I ever experienced a tsunami or a big storm on a beach? Do I have any associations off the top of my head, so to speak? So that one comes, pretty quickly as well, that second layer. The third layer is where we do most of our active dream work and do a lot of different methods and techniques for exploring the dream material, which is a deeper layer that needs to be, as Jung would say, unpacked. So from the dream itself. Here's where we start to look at the metaphor, the symbolism. We look at associations to story, to myth, to fairy tale, to the emotional energy of being on that beach and that tsunami, and take it past just, have I ever been there, to, what does a tsunami mean to me if I'm going to free associate? What is it about a storm? What does it have to do with water? In my own life, am I feeling any stormy emotions going on? Have I ever been in a place like this emotionally or physically or spiritually? Is this a repetitive dream? Is it a one-time dream? And then the deepest layer is where we connect with sort of a spiritual and or a world consciousness, so that we're tapping into sort of a mythic and mystical layer and potentially spiritual layer that the dream can be bringing to us as well.
Why do you think so many people are just not interested or even resistant to talking about their dreams or even remembering their dreams?
It's interesting. Because we all dream every night. We actually all dream like 4 to 7 times a night. We have REM cycles, depending on if you're a 5-hour a night sleeper or a 9-hour a night sleeper, you'll have more or less REM cycles. So it's not that people don't have dreams, it's that they don't remember them. So you're absolutely right in phrasing the question that way. And I think in part, we in modern Western world don't value dreams as much as our ancestors and people from wisdom traditions have valued the dreams. Back in the day, when we lived in tribes, the leaders of the tribes, the shamans of the tribes, were the ones who were the deepest dreamers and could understand and appreciate dreams. And dreams were seen as very, very important parts of daily life. And there wasn't as much differentiation between what we call our waking life and what we call our sleeping life. Sort of the time-space continuum was a little larger, and the differentiation was smaller when we lived on the land and we lived closer to connections with cycles of nature. And in Western science, there's a Freudian slip for you. In Western world and Western thinking, we've become worshipers of science, not spirituality. And there have been too many scientists who over the years have sort of dismissed the value of dreams, saying, oh, they're random neurological firings of the brain. They're just little hiccups and they don't mean anything. And you hear that often enough and you go, well, yeah, even though I might have thought it meant something, all these scientists are telling me it doesn't, so I'm just going to believe them. So I think we've swung a little bit too far over to that sort of rationalist viewpoint and aren't giving enough attention to the other parts of our being and our brains.
I like to say they have a very practical benefit as well in terms of what they offer us.
That term, it's like, oh, I'll sleep on it, is actually really a good idea, because we come up with creative solutions to problems when we sleep. We come up with insights when we sleep. Lots of scientific inventions, artistic works, musical compositions came straight out of someone's dream.
Linda, you run an ongoing dream group. How does working in a group help people understand their dreams?
We all have blind spots, and we can't see the back of our own heads without not only one mirror, but at least two, and someone else to hold that second mirror. So when we're working with other people around a dream, they can see things that we can't see in a dream. That's sort of the bottom line of one of the benefits of working in a dream circle for the dreamer, is that we get different perspectives on our dream that we might not have thought of, because we get in our own way sometimes. And when things particularly are symbolic or metaphorical, we kind of get stuck in, oh, this is what I dreamed, but I can't figure it out. And other people can see it from the outside and have a different perspective. And then for the other members of the dream circle, we all resonate together with everyone's dream. So that if I'm talking about my dream, you may resonate with some aspect of my dream and get your own aha or insight or burst of creativity as a result of being in that space of working at this dream.
Can you give us an example of someone who came into your group with one of these hard to figure out dreams and how he or she benefited from this?
So I've been actually starting some of my blogging on working with someone's dreams related to some childhood trauma. And the dreams she was coming in with were dreams about having like sticky taffy in her mouth. And she couldn't talk, or she couldn't open her jaw all the way, or when she tried to talk, she just got a little peep come out. But a lot of this sort of sticky stuff in her mouth, and that was like a repetitive dream for her. And so we worked on it for a while, and she'd always say, oh, it's just that stupid dream again. It doesn't mean anything. And the response to a repetitive dream is, well, actually, it's even more important if it's a repetitive dream, because it's something unfinished. It's something your psyche really wants you to know and wants you to do something about. And it's going to keep coming back and potentially escalating until you kind of get it, whatever the it is that you're supposed to get, and then take the action step of whatever the action is you're supposed to do. So we worked with her for a while and asked her questions about, her mouth and about food and about what it meant. And we got to the layer of metaphor where she couldn't speak up for herself. She felt tongue-tied. She felt like words got stuck in her throat. Right? So here's sort of a layer of metaphor that we're starting to get to, as opposed to, I have a hard time chewing certain foods. That there was nothing about that for her. So then we asked, okay, so what does that mean? Let's think about it in terms of your life today, in terms of your history. And working together, she came up with kind of two things. One was sort of more current, which is she's a sort of quiet, mild-mannered person, very lovely woman. She describes herself as kind of conflict avoidant. She doesn't like to speak up. And she's been having this boss at work who has been kind of unreasonable and making unreasonable demands, and she hasn't been able to speak up for herself to say anything about that. So that was her first aha. And we worked with her. Literally, sometimes we do physical embodied dream work where we had her actually like pulling that taffy out of her mouth to get it unstuck. And we had her sort of doing this motion that I'm doing in her dream, and then talked about what else she could do in waking life with the boss. So that was one layer that she was working on and starting to think about. And then as we got to know each other better and she was in the group longer, she told us about growing up with a mom who was pretty mentally ill and was sick a lot of her life. And she was really scared all the time that if she said the wrong thing, it could like tip her mother over into a worse crisis. So she spent a lot of time sort of swallowing her anger and her fear and her pain and didn't speak up about these things. I had been living with that for years and years and years. And that was the second aha. So there's this current event at work going on of this boss and I can't speak up to him. And then this sort of older history from, 40 some years ago of not being able to speak up as a child. So one layer of intervention, if you will, is just getting the connections made between the metaphor in the dreams and what's going on in either current or past life.
She had been of a mind to work on the dreams by herself. She might not have gotten that confidence to speak up if she hadn't had the support of the group supporting her in the process.
In addition to getting a lot of two heads are better than one or six heads are better than one around what does my dream mean, working in a dream circle is also the support and the encouragement of everybody to take the dream learning and take the dream insight out into the world, into action, and then get really kind of appreciated and applauded for having done it. And that's invaluable too.
How can people learn more about you?
Well, I have a website, yaelschiller.com is my website. And I have a blog, awaketoyourdreams.com. And my book is actually already up on Amazon and Goodreads and other platforms for pre-order. It comes out in December, but it's up there for pre-order if you want to read about it.
We've been speaking with writer and dream expert Linda Schiller.